Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Goin Digital Show, the podcast for K-12 school leaders. I'm your host, Greg Goins, a school district superintendent in the state of Illinois, and this is episode number 22. And tonight, I'm being joined by two outstanding school leaders in the state of Ohio. I have with me tonight Ryan McLean and Eric Lowe. One is a superintendent, one is a principal, and they have collaborated as co-authors of the book, Your School Rocks. So tell people, passionately pitch and promote the positives happening on your campus. So we have a great show tonight. We're going to have a great discussion as the new school year is off and running. This is a great time to be thinking about your school district or your school-wide social media plan and how you want to tell your school story. So we're going to dive right in, and we're going to give you some tips from this wonderful book, Your School Rocks. So you might as well tell people, and I can't think of a better way to phrase it. So welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks a lot for having us.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us. We really appreciate it.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you. I know you guys are doing some amazing things in your districts, and we certainly want to highlight those. If you have not had a chance to get the book, you can get the book at Amazon.com and a lot of different places, really. But it's one of those books after the show tonight, you're certainly gonna log on to your computer and buy that book, whether it's online or they can even mail you a hard copy to your home. So be sure to check out this book if you're a school leader and you're thinking about new and innovative ways to promote all the things happening in your school district. So with that, why don't you both tell us a little bit about your background and about your school district, and we'll start with our longtime principal but first-year superintendent, Eric Lowe.
My name's Eric Lowe. As Greg said, I'm in a district of roughly 1,900 students in grades K through 12. We are somewhat, I would consider us rural. We don't really have a true town in our district. We have all kinds of socioeconomic that comprise our district. We're roughly 150 kids a class, and we have embraced social media. We also have iPads in grades 6 through 12. One-to-one, and we have like about 90 in a grade level at some of our other grade levels in our district.
Okay, great. Ryan?
My name's Ryan McLean. I'm the principal at Big Walnut Intermediate School, located just outside of Columbus, Ohio. Our district has a little over 3,600 students in K through 12. I'm the principal of our intermediate building, which is grades 5 and 6 for the entire district. So we have about 570 students in those two grades. As I mentioned, my 6 year as a principal, 4th year at Big Walnut, and we've been using social media to share the great things that are happening, that our kids are doing, and our staff is doing in our building, so that people know about it.
Very good. So I guess the big question is, my assumption would be that the two of you knew each other prior to the book project. I don't know how far apart you are or what your relationship was before the book, but kind of give us a little bit of backstory as to how the book came about.
So actually, we thought we had met on Twitter probably five years ago, my first or second year as a principal, and I knew his superintendent at the time, and I ran into him at a conference, and I didn't know where Beaver Local was. So in asking his superintendent where it was, he said it's near East Liverpool, Ohio. And my roommate from college was from East Liverpool, Ohio. So I asked the superintendent, Kent Poland, hey, did you know so-and-so? And he said, no, that name doesn't sound familiar, but Eric would know him. So I sent Eric a message on Twitter saying, hey, did you know my roommate from college? And Eric responded, yes, I was in his wedding. And I responded back, so was I. So we had met about 15 years ago, and don't remember it, and I don't think that has a whole lot to do with the state we were in at the reception. But we kind of reconnected on Twitter, shared a lot of the same philosophies, had presented at some conferences on this topic, and then kind of threw the idea out to him of, you think we could turn this into a book? So it kind of went from there. We collaborated through Google Docs and Voxer and Twitter and Google Hangouts. I don't think we wrote any of the book while we were in the same room together.
All right, so Eric, was it just a case where you were both doing innovative things in your school districts and you started to compare notes, or how did it go for you?
I think it would almost be more a pedagogy thing in that in our district we were looking for a summer reading book, and originally we were trying to look to go to the 21st century model, and a lot of people wanted us to read a 21st century book. And for whatever reason, I promoted that we read Teach Like a Pirate because I feel like a lot of things that go into that are grounded in that, and the reasons why we got no education are sometimes lost. And that book reinforces that notion. And when we were doing that, Dave Burgess offered to do book chats with us, but we also reached out to Ryan because he was the first person who had had a Teach Like a Pirate Day at his school, where students, teachers create experiences and students choose where they go without any schedule for the day. So we reached out to Ryan to be a part of that, and it kind of just went from there. And like Ryan and I both have a very student-centered, kid-centered approach, and just kind of connected in that and continued. It was a door to me to learn, and I've learned a lot from Ryan and people that Ryan knows, and it opened a whole new avenue of thoughts to me. So I think it made me a better educator, and in turn has helped me to work with a lot of people to share some of those ideas.
You know, we talk a lot about being a connected educator, and even if you're, in the same state, you may not get a lot of time to network and share ideas if you do happen to run into one another at a conference. So, Twitter has been a game changer for me personally. I mean, that's why I'm doing this show, quite frankly. So how has it kind of helped lead and guide the both of you?
Well, it's as you mentioned, it's been a game changer for me in terms of the connections that I've made and the resources that I've allowed myself to have. I can remember before Twitter, going to an educational conference, and I would go to a couple, sessions, and in between the sessions, I'd just kind of walk around by myself and grab lunch and just kind of sit there and wait for that next one. And now, through the connections that I've made, I'm meeting up with those people to have professional discussions and dialogue and picking their brains, and it has made attending conferences like that so much more beneficial to me. Selfishly, that not only am I learning during those sessions that I'm attending, but I'm learning in between. I'm learning at lunch. I'm learning walking through the exhibit hall because I'm meeting up with a superintendent from another district, or a curriculum director, or a special ed director. So it's the connection. It's not Twitter itself. It's the connections that Twitter has allowed me to make.
And really, in our district, it even goes beyond that. In the last 2 years, we've got a brand new K-12 facility, and our prior superintendent exposed us to a lot of ideas through Twitter, and our building is built with flexible space, learning pods, garage doors that walls move, shared learning spaces. It's very cutting edge, so to speak, in the way the learning spaces are, and we didn't really have the good fortune to see schools around here like that, but we saw and read a lot of things through Twitter and got some buy-in there and kind of ran with that and how we created our school as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, this kind of all ties together, but, it's been 2 or 3 years now that I ended up connecting with a guy named Joe Sanfilippo, the superintendent at Fall Creek, Wisconsin, and he was using the hashtag #GoCrickets, and I was seeing all this stuff on social media, Go Crickets, Go Crickets, Go Crickets. They had T-shirts, they had bumper stickers, you name it. So I actually had a chance to meet Joe at a Future Ready Summit in St. Louis, Missouri, about a year and a half ago, and had a chance to talk with him. But he was the first person that I really connected with, along with Tony Sinanis, who's former principal at Kaniog Elementary School out east, and I think Tony now is an assistant superintendent out east as well. And they kept talking about the fact that if you don't tell your school story, someone else is going to tell it for you, and it may not come out exactly the way you want. So that was kind of my inspiration in my walk with social media in my school district. We've been using a hashtag in my district now for the last 2 years, and it's just been a wonderful way to connect with people in our community and really create school spirit and school pride within our buildings every day. So I guess my question would be, what was the inspiration behind you guys taking this journey in social media and writing the book?
So I guess 2 answers to that. One, my first principal job at Utica Junior High was in a very a rural district, low socioeconomic situation, and test scores in the crapper for years, like pretty much dead last across the board. And the teachers weren't feeling good about anything. There wasn't a whole lot of community support, and I, because of all of those situations, the superintendent took a chance on a rookie like me and gave me the opportunity to lead that school. But in seeing what was going on in that building and the teachers that were there, like my initial assessment was, we must have a bunch of bad teachers who are just there collecting a paycheck and you know aren't doing the best job, and that was a horrible assumption on my part. And as I'm walking into these classrooms, we were just doing little things wrong. We weren't doing sound assessment and using that data to change our instruction. And it sounds so simple, but we weren't doing little things like that. The things that were happening in the classroom were phenomenal. And I'm thinking there was this disconnect, that the community hated the school and the school felt like the community didn't support us, and it was because there was a disconnect. The community didn't know what was going on. So that was when, you know, our superintendent at Utica, he took a chance and said, yeah, let's use social media, let's get that story out there. And we would share the great things that were happening. And many of our parents didn't know what was going on and were pleasantly surprised. And it was our fault because we weren't telling anyone. We weren't sharing the story, so the good news wasn't getting home. And that was our fault. We could control that and fix that and change the perception. So again, if horrible things were happening in school, then, you know, we weren't just going to make things up on Facebook, but, you know, there were legitimately good things happening that we wanted to share. And through trial and error, and I'll let Eric jump in here, was kind of why we wrote the book. You know, Joe and Tony, they wrote a great book on school branding. Where we thought our book was going to be different was we were going to give specific, here's how to, not just to use Instagram, but here's 3 or 4 ways that you can actually use it, and here's some video tutorials that are going to walk you through the process, that if you've never used Instagram before, we're going to help you through it. So it was more of a user guide, so that someone who had a lot of experience or someone who is a complete novice could get something out of our book and implement it into their building tomorrow.
Like Ryan said, similar here, I was trying to find ways as an assistant principal. Everybody said that's the worst job and got middle schoolers and such a negative position. And I started out where I tried to be that guy, like, you know, the stern, like, this is the rule guy, and that's not me. And it couldn't be me. So I kind of turned to that as a way, a couple ways, kind of like you mentioned, Greg, with the hashtag. We went with the Angela Meyer kind of thing, like the BLU Matter. We use BLMSU Matter. Now that I've evolved in my role, I'm using BLU Matter a lot to create a theme, to give us a commonality, to also give us a way for kids to share pictures and people in the community and grab those and include them and promote them. And also, like Ryan alluded to, Instagram to me was a way. I couldn't see every kid every day necessarily, all 600 kids, but it was a platform where I could connect with most of them every single day. And I kind of started where the first thing I did when I got out of bed is I posted a positive character message to promote that, so they saw it every single day. And, you know, you could tell when kids get out of bed and they start liking it, that's the first thing they do. So it gave me an avenue to constantly promote. And I don't like to I don't try not even use the word bully, because I believe if we focus on the positive character traits, it takes care of those situations in most cases. So it gave me an avenue to promote those pillars of character, and reach all students on a daily basis, not just those targeted kids that you have those relationships with and have to. It gave me an avenue, whether I was in an event or whether I was doing that positive message, to connect with kids and show them and be in their world and connect with them.
Yeah, I think those are both great points. And I think one of the things that I really like probably most about the book, and there's a lot of things at the top of the list, but I love the cover. I love the title, and I love the cover, the simplicity of it. I tell people all the time, there are great things happening in your school each and every day. I don't care what school district you're in, what school in this country that you're in, something amazing's happening. But if we don't share it, nobody knows about it. So, I mean, it's really kind of changing the culture of your school and having the courage to say, hey, this is something that's going on today, and just kind of celebrate your school, celebrate kids, celebrate all the great accomplishments that are taking place on a daily basis. So can you guys just talk a little bit about the thought process for the cover and the title of the book?
Yeah, I'm glad you love the cover, because that was probably the most difficult part of the entire process, from us beginning to write it to the point where the book was in our hands. I don't remember, Eric. We probably had 6 different titles
At least.
Before we settled on this one, and God knows how many different covers. So it's one of those, you know it when you see it. And when we saw this, at least for myself, when I saw this, I was like, yes, this is it. This is the title. This is the cover. This is it.
Ryan, what are your thoughts about that process?
Yeah, I mean, with the title and everything, I agree with you. I think social media gives you like a superpower almost, I like to say, and you can use it for good or bad, and it's not going to go away. So it's our responsibility to educate kids about that superpower, just like any superhero. Some of those use their superpower for good and some for bad. And with Your School Rocks, like you said, it gives you a platform to reach people you've never met. Like Ryan had last time we talked in Austin at a conference, he had a really good analogy, like how many grandparents run a copy and mail your paper newsletter, or parents to grandparents and people to family members. Well, that's exactly what happens when you start using those social media platforms. People share it, people screenshot it, send it to someone else. So it spreads like wildfire, that message. And yes, we all have things we need to work on, but we also, like you said, have great things going on. And it's our responsibility to take control of that, because we spend way too much of our lives, not just in school, talking about all the problems, instead of promoting all the good things going on, whether it's your news, your newspaper, or whatever. Unfortunately, humans like to talk about what's wrong, and it's our obligation to start getting that message. Let's talk about what's right, and let's focus on those things, and then we can also improve those other things that we need to work on.
Yeah, and I go out and I speak on occasion, and I talk about these type of things, being a connected educator, telling your story. And one of the things I like to tell people is, I mean, I have a lot of job titles. Some days I feel like I'm a police officer. Some days I'm a counselor. Some days I feel like an attorney. You just never know what's going to walk through the door. But at the top of that list has to be storyteller in chief. I mean, as the superintendent and principal in a school, and the teachers and faculty in your buildings, it's our responsibility to tell those stories and celebrate all the great things that are happening. And this is working, guys, when you run into Walmart's or your local grocery store and someone comes up to you and says, hey, I see they're making volcanoes in 7th grade science. And then you can sit there and have that conversation about something that you've put out there that you're proud of, and you can actually have a positive conversation about what's going on in your schools. And that's probably been the most gratifying thing for me since we've been on social media. Do you guys have any feel-good stories that you can share with us?
I actually have one in my role now. I was trying to come up with something, and actually my administrative team came up with the idea. We were trying to launch something to get school off to the right start, and we created professional learning communities. And the first thing we talked about is, okay, we're going to take those communities and we're going to look at data. And we said, what a good way to kill the opening day, like trying to get a positive momentum and trying to do all these things. So one of them said, why don't we do school bus karaoke and take these people who don't really know each other. We grouped them like 6 to 12 and K to 5. Take these people, put them on a bus, and give them so much time and have them make a video, because we're trying to promote mastery through alternative means. And at the same time, let them take a song and get people involved and let people see people in a different light. And I cannot tell you, that could not have went better. We actually did an administrative one as a team, and we posted it to our school Facebook, and it got 30,000 views. And it had 90 comments and over like 600 shares. And the thing has been, everywhere you went, someone came up and said, hey, that was awesome, that video. I wore like a beaver head in it. And, like people were all into that. That's all. I had a lady tonight say, hey, you're my evening entertainment. Keep those videos coming, because we had some where kids were doing the rules last week in a fun way, and high school kids, and doing Spanish, and people, like all of that, teachers introduced their learning community and did like the Brady Bunch theme. I mean, so many good ideas, and people were on there looking, talking, and really was a positive thing. And in turn, when school started, teachers were doing that with students. That once we kind of modeled it and they saw the benefit to them, it went to there. So, but like you said, unless you're using something like social media, how do you get that out to people for them to see that's going on?
Yeah, very cool. Ryan?
Yeah, video is so underutilized. We've been doing a video newsletter every Friday for the past 3 or 4 years because no one was reading our paper or email newsletter. As a parent, I wasn't reading my daughter's paper newsletter, so that was kind of the eye-opening moment for me that we've got to do something different to engage our families because this isn't cutting it. So we get kids involved, and it's a quick 2 to 3 minute video where we include the kids. We show photographs and videos from the week of what's been happening in the classrooms, and then I'm on at the end for like the last 45 seconds talking about here are the things that you need to know about next week. And we upload it to Facebook, YouTube. We email the link out, and again, just the number of people that actually watch it compared to the number of people who are actually reading our paper or email or web-based newsletter, it's night and day. And like you had mentioned, the number of times, I mean, I can't even count anymore, the number of times I walk into the grocery store or I'm at the town square or the Ribs Fest that was a few weekends ago, people that I have no idea who they are come up to me and say, oh, I love your videos. And my wife just, every time it happens, laughs and she shakes her head. But they know who I am and what I stand for, so that when we do have to meet due to some unfortunate circumstances, we've already gotten over that awkward getting to know each other phase and debating whether or not their son or daughter is guilty or innocent, and the conversation's more about, okay, my kid screwed up, where are we going to go from here, how are we going to help them, and we really have a partnership. Too often in education it's just simply cliche where we talk about having a working partnership with our families, and this has been instrumental in making that a reality and benefiting from it.
And we talked a little bit off air before we started about this idea that we have to have a completely different mindset as 21st century educators, and we were talking about traditional media. And if you think about the traditional newspaper, every small town in America has a newspaper. Maybe it's a weekly, maybe it's a daily. It seems like local radio stations are far and few between. Maybe if you're lucky enough to have one of the regional television affiliates within a close drive to your school, you may be lucky enough to have them pop in once in a while. But if we're waiting on those traditional news mediums to come and find something really positive to talk about, it's probably going to be a long wait. So can you guys talk just a little bit about how we're all taking a little more ownership in our own celebration of what's happening in our schools? We've all kind of become journalists in a sense.
Well,
Eric, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I feel like we are like our own publicists or our own PR directors now, and it almost just becomes commonplace as part of the job. Like people say, well, how do you have all this extra time to do it? Well, when I'm out in classrooms or we see things, you're already taking pictures, you're taking video because you know what you want to do with it. You had a goal in mind, just in there right now at the volleyball match I just walked in from. We had a huge student section. We normally don't. And they were very active tonight, doing a really nice job. I went in there to get a couple videos and shots, so later in the year when we have other events, I had in my mind, like, I want to put this out there, like, hey, let's make this happen again tonight, so I can bring that back. Like, wait, so you're thinking differently, like you said, because you want to constantly connect and reach out to all these people, whether it's your students. I think it really gives you a way to connect with them that is way stronger than anything else you're going to do. Other than that personal interaction one-on-one, but I mean, it just because you constantly can connect with them and they see your interest. And also, it's nice to have outlets where you promote and parents know where to go. They know they can get an answer quickly. If they go to Facebook and ask a question, they know they're going to get a timely answer. The school website, no one's getting up in the morning and going to the school website either. I know there are some people that still go there, but putting things on Facebook is so user-friendly along with Instagram and those platforms, and it gives you that way to connect and reach so many more people. Can't reach 1,000 people on your school website in a second like you can on those.
And you know, Ryan, another great thing that we talk about is using social media is real time and it's very authentic. This is what's taking place right now in Eric's gym at the volleyball game. This is the student section going crazy, and we don't have to wait, a week for a picture in the newspaper to come out. It's going out right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's timely, and again, we were talking about this before we went on the air. When I was a kid, or even if you think about 15, 20 years ago, I can remember going home or going to my grandparents, and someone was always reading a newspaper. You were getting the daily newspaper. At the very least, you were getting the Sunday edition, and you were almost the outcast if you weren't getting one of those. And now I don't know of anyone that still gets the daily newspaper. But here's what I see now, whether I'm walking into a house, my parents' house, on the subway, is I see this. Here's what everyone's doing right here. They've got the device in front of them, and we've got the ability to put content on that device that they're going to consume. I want to throw a few numbers at you. So the Pew Research Center released a study in the summer of 2015. Of all adults that use the internet, 91% of parents use the internet. Of that 91%, 83% use social media. And I would imagine that number has increased over the past 12 months. 74% of the parents use Facebook, and of those parents, 75% of them use it every single day. So we've got a tool that people are pretty much addicted to, that they're using on a constant basis, and they want us to use it. We'd be foolish not to use it. Like Eric said, it's not one more thing because I've got my phone with me or I've got my iPad with me. It takes 2 seconds to take that photo, or a teacher's taking the photo and sending it to us, and we're sharing it. It's not a time commitment, an additional time commitment. Talking about the video newsletter earlier, people might be thinking, oh my goodness, I don't have time to do that. It actually saves me time. I hate it doing the traditional newsletter. It would take me hours to proofread and format and come up with the content. I can do the 2 to 3 minute video in like 15 minutes. So it saves me time, it's more engaging, and the numbers and the statistics are there that make it worth doing.
One other thing that's going on right now that's kind of new, that like you're saying in real time, I've seen schools even doing their morning announcements with Facebook Live, because it gives that archive. The other day, we've been having trouble with people parking in our fire lane. We walked out, we did a Facebook Live video explaining the fire lane, that's all the way around the front of the school. Here's where we're going. And the next 2 days, honest to goodness, we had one car in the fire lane after we had dealt, because one principal said, I need help with this. What's going on? And I said, hey, let's go out and make a Facebook Live video, because I knew that we could at least get it out real quick to a lot of people. They could be aware of it and see what's happening. So even that added feature now, I think, gives you a whole nother dimension to reach out to people. And the way it keeps evolving, we're going to keep evolving with it. It's the ways you use it, it's almost like instruction. The pedagogy behind it will be similar, but there's going to be different platforms and alternative means to keep enhancing what we do to connect with our school communities.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. So let's dive in now to some specific examples and have a little bit of fun. Ryan, you were citing some statistics, which I love, and I read an article just the other day that 70% of college students check Snapchat at least once a day. So you're seeing more and more colleges and universities using that as a recruiting tool. Not really seeing a whole lot at the K-12 level, although it's kind of hit or miss. It's a little sporadic, but I think you're going to see more and more people using it. And I just jumped on Snapchat it's probably been less than 3 months ago. And, it's like anything else. There's a learning curve. And I was trying to figure it out. I went to YouTube and I tried to watch a video. At the end of the day, I have a 4-year-old great nephew that showed me how to use Snapchat one afternoon. It's amazing what kids are able to do today. But think about something like Snapchat and how that's kind of really changed the way we communicate with that certain demographic of kids.
Yeah, and I'll let Eric talk about that because he's actually using it. But I know there's some people listening right now that are saying to themselves, there's no way these two guys are going to tell us that they're using Snapchat in their schools. And Eric's going to tell you he is. But if you think about Facebook, 6 years ago, people would have had the same perception. There's no way you're going to say schools are using Facebook, and more are every day. So it's, again, teaching the kids how to use it responsibly, and as a school, learning how to use it for educational purposes. But we're not using it, and it's not because I'm afraid to use it, and Eric's more brave than I am. But my current demographic of students, they're not there. Fifth and sixth graders, they're more of an Instagram crowd. So I don't want to steer my kids towards that. But if they were already on it, my answer would be different.
And Eric, I think it's not that people don't necessarily want to use it, but they're trying to figure out how to use it, what impact it's going to have. If the message or the photograph is going to disappear, I mean, it's kind of like a Mission Impossible thing to me. It will self-destruct in 30 seconds. What is the actual value in using something that's not going to have staying power like you would a Twitter post or an Instagram post?
Yeah, and I think I just started to dabble in it a little bit because I try to go where the kids are. And not that I want to intrude in their world, so to speak, but I want to be there so they know that I'm interested in that world, and also at the same time keep teaching social media responsibility to them. So they know, and we model, and we show. And that was one of the things with Snapchat. I kept saying to kids, how could we use this in school? How could we use this in school? And actually, when I really started to use it, one of the kids came to me last year and said, Mr. Lowe, that's cool that you got us a Snapchat filter. And I'm like, what? And they said, well, there's a BL Snapchat now filter that we can use. Well, I had nothing to do with it. I have no idea how it even happened, but they view that I promote that, so they thought. But we used it last year at the state wrestling tournament a lot just because people were there and kind of could create the day's story. I like that feature. Now Instagram kind of has that feature where you can create your own story, trying to promote with our admin to kind of have some takeovers with kids, to give them a day to, kids we maybe trust a little more than others, I guess, let's say, but tell their school story for that day on there and get kids involved. I a lot of times screenshot it and still put it into Instagram because that way I feel like kids also know I'm using Snapchat, so if they're not following, they can go follow. But yeah, I understand with the disappearing thing, but there's so many kids there, especially that demographic like 7 through 12, that we try to go there just so we can have a little bit of a presence and see and trying to expand what we do with it. I would say we more dabble in it right now. One other thing we did last year was we used Periscope, and when we were at the state wrestling tournament, and a totally unintended, not a consequence, but result was I'm broadcasting on Periscope, and I had one dad say, hey, that was awesome. My daughter watched that wrestling match. And I said, well, how'd she watch it? And he said, well, her teacher got alerted you were on Periscope, so she put it on the 80-inch flat screen TV in class, said, hey, let's watch Bo wrestle for the next 6 minutes. Something that I didn't even intend to happen, but they got to see their classmate live wrestle at the state wrestling tournament. So those types of things just open so many doors that we never even knew were there, and just the goodwill that comes from that, So I do think that that's important.
And those are things kids are going to remember. I mean, we talk about student growth and all that stuff, which is important. I don't want to discount that, but we've got to create memories for these kids too. And I know if I was a student in that class, I'm going to remember 20 years from now when we watched Bo wrestle in social studies class for 6 minutes. Those are the memories that are going to last them a lifetime. And then if they stay in our community and they become the next generation of students' parents, they might be more likely to be supportive of the school and enhance that partnership that we're going to try and create. It doesn't happen overnight. You're not going to turn around a school and a community that have some friction. That's not going to get fixed overnight, but over time, those are some examples of building some goodwill.
And as school leaders out there listening tonight, thinking about maybe implementing a social media plan in their school, I know from my own experience when I talk to some of my colleagues, superintendents, principals, teachers, there are two reactions that I get. The first is a lot of times they're really quick to focus on the negative. Well, what if this happens? What if that happens? And my reply to that is, instead of thinking about all the things that can go wrong, let's think about what could go right, because there are far more positives than negatives. And then we also get into the digital citizenship piece. Isn't it our responsibility to teach kids how to use these tools as 21st century learners? and teach them what's acceptable use. And then the other thing I get is it becomes so overwhelming because there are so many different things that you can use, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We've talked about Snapchat, Vine videos, and I think a lot of times it just becomes overwhelming. Do you guys advocate finding something that you have a comfort level with and just trying to master that first, or what's the strategy?
I would say yes. Definitely we always say it's not an all or nothing approach. Find something that is comfortable to you. You got to know also what audience you're trying to reach, and go to that audience. Like Facebook, Ryan will cite the stat. Even though a lot of teenagers will say they don't like Facebook, Pew Research also says that if kids had to pick one social media platform from their studies, they'd pick Facebook. So, going somewhere where you get more bang for your buck, especially if you're trying to get into it, what you're trying to get out of it. I definitely think trying to do all of them is overwhelming and becomes like we did not start out doing all of them. It just keeps like you add something new, you find something, and you find out how to incorporate it into what you do. So definitely someone doesn't have to take on all those. It's more what they're trying to get out of it and then what audience they want to reach.
Yeah, well, what we tell people is, who are you trying to engage? If you're trying to engage families, parents, grandparents, then go with Facebook and just do Facebook until it becomes comfortable and it doesn't seem like it's one more thing. And then when that point happens, it might be a month, it might be 3 months, but you'll know when it's just part of your routine. Then you can look at adding that second thing. If you're looking at engaging kids right now, I think you want to go to Instagram. And again, that doesn't take a lot of time. Once you figure out what you're doing, it's not going to become very time consuming. But by no means did either one of us start out by doing Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, a video newsletter. That was never a realistic start, nor would we advise anyone to try that.
And the one thing you said that I think is so true is, regardless if we do it or don't do it, kids are still out there doing things on there. So we're just ignoring the fact that kids are using it, and in some cases, yes, misusing it. So at least when we have a presence on there and we're modeling it and showing how you can connect and showing how you can grow and showing how you can make a positive impact, we have a better chance kids are going to buy into that and see what can be done with it in a positive light, not just whatever they may be doing and not possibly just because they're not educated on how to do it elsewhere.
And again, worrying about that negative, we've had a Facebook page for the last 4 or 5 years, and we allow comments, and that makes people really nervous and almost cringe, because if you allow comments, you're opening yourself up to negativity. And I hate to break it to people, but if you don't allow comments, that's not going to stop the negativity. That's going to stop you from knowing about the negativity. In the 5 years we've been doing it, I can count on one hand the number of times we've had a borderline negative comment, and it's to the point now that when it does happen, and it maybe happens once a year, I don't even need to respond. The other parents that know what we stand for, they correct it. They let the person know, hey, that's not accurate. And sometimes it might be a valid point, and I'll pick up the phone and I'll call that parent and say, hey, I was unaware of this. Give me some more information. And typically they go and delete the comment, or they update it and say, wow, the principal called me. We got this all worked out. Everything's great. Again, if we don't allow comments, I don't know that there's a problem and I can't fix it.
Yeah, and I think we all have to accept the fact that kids make mistakes. That's what kids do, and that's how they learn, and that's how they grow, and that's how they continue to become better educated in this 21st century world. And having this conversation with you guys makes me think of the George Couros quote that we need to make the positive so loud that the negative becomes almost impossible to hear. And that's happened in my district too. You may get a negative comment or something on occasion, but man, it doesn't take long to drown it out, because our kids know that they value having that social media presence, and they certainly don't want it to be something that's taken away from them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So We're having a great conversation with Ryan McClain and Eric Lowe, two outstanding school administrators in the state of Ohio. They are all co-authors of the book, Your School Rocks, so tell people. So we're talking about social media, and Ryan, you've been able to provide us with a few statistics. So do you have any more about where is our audience? My guess would be younger kids are on Instagram. Probably, Twitter is probably more that demographic. I don't know. I'm just going to throw out maybe 18 to 27, and Facebook's an older crowd.
Facebook is a growing older crowd is growing on Facebook. So again, these statistics are from the study that was done last year of parents that use the internet. 74% of them use Facebook, 25% use Instagram, 23% use Twitter. I would guess the Twitter numbers probably decreasing and the Snapchat numbers increasing. From our experiences, I think the middle school age and even into high school, Instagram seems to be the go-to with our kids. And again, what's nice about that is it's photos and maybe a caption, but that can be pretty impactful. Eric talks about that daily message, and that doesn't take a whole lot of time. And if that's getting one or two kids off to the right start, then it's worth doing it. And I was skeptical of it when Eric was telling me how he was using it. I was skeptical that it was gonna stick. My fear is always, we're entering the kids' world, and we don't want to do what happened with Facebook. All the kids were on Facebook, and then what happened? Mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, and uncle got on Facebook, and then the kids went somewhere else. So I was always very cautious. I didn't want to make Instagram uncool to get them to, the school's using it, so time to go somewhere else. But gave it a shot and did the daily message, and what I found was the kids were liking the positive daily message more than they were liking the photographs of themselves and their friends. They were still liking those photographs, but they were liking the positive message at a higher rate, and that was surprising to me. It told me, one, we weren't intruding on their turf. They were embracing us, and two, we could have a positive impact using a social media tool that they're checking every morning.
And Eric, we've talked a lot about Snapchat and Facebook, but I've really, to be quite honest with you, have not gravitated toward Instagram because I'm very enamored with Twitter, and we've been very successful. And to kind of add that to the mix, I've been a little bit reluctant. So what can you do to convince me that maybe we need to get Instagram up and going in my school or other schools?
Well, one thing I would say to you is when you get up in the morning, the first thing I do, I don't know about you, is I check my phone. And a lot of times the second thing I do is check my phone. So it gives me a really quick way that as soon as I get out of bed, kind of like the night before, I have a go-to message, whether it's a optimistic quote for the day, whether it's a picture of a student and I use something like font candy to put a quote over top of our students. And when that kid gets out of bed, I have around 950 kids that follow me on Instagram. I know those 950 people, because no one else is interested in what I have to say. It's only people in our school community that I know I got a captive audience the moment they get out of bed. So I at least, when that person gets up, the first thing they're going to see if they go to Instagram is a positive message to start that day, regardless of what's going on in your life, what's happening, and hopefully they're going to see that, whether it's on the school bus in the morning, whether it's when they get out of bed, and they're going to enter here knowing that that is my personal goal for the day, or that's my message for the day to them. So it's something so quick for me, but I think so powerful to them. I just feel like you get a lot of impact with something like that. Like today, it was like one small positive thought in the morning can change your whole day. That was my quote. So I just feel like you got that captive audience. They see it. Doesn't matter if I might only get 20 likes. Most of them still looked at it, regardless if they liked it or not. So you get a lot of impact for that small amount of time investment there.
And I keep going back to that. I hardly ever like anything on social media. I'll retweet things on Twitter, but Facebook and Instagram, I hardly ever like something. But that doesn't mean I didn't see it. So when we're seeing how many shares or how many likes we're getting on Facebook or Instagram, that tells us not only did that person see it, but that impacted them so much that they hit the like button. I'm sure there's many, many more people that saw that message, and we informed them, we engaged them, we impacted them in some way. Why you should consider Instagram? It's the quickest of all. It's quicker than Twitter because you take a picture. The only caption you need to put in there is your school district hashtag, and you're done. And once people know that you have an account, you're going to see a lot of engagement.
Just like Ryan last week, I mean, we a lot of times borrow from each other, but I had one on there that he didn't like, but then a couple days later I saw it show up on his Instagram that he reused it. So, I mean, I knew he saw it and thought, well, that was a decent one, so he borrowed it. I've done the same to him. Like, he has one, I see it, and I'm like, oh, I'd like to use that one. So, I don't usually like his either that he puts on his school one, but I still always look at it, follow it, and take those and use them sometimes.
And another thing that I really enjoyed reading in the book was the chapters about video, and we hit on that just a little bit. But I think a lot of times we assume that that's going to be too much work, and none of us have time to be a full-time videographer. But if you have a program like iMovie, there are a lot of apps out there that you can get on your iPad or iPhone. It really doesn't take a whole lot of time. And Ryan, I think you talked about that with the e-newsletters. But, I mean, I enjoyed reading things about the e-movie trailers. I mean, you could put something together pretty quick that has a really powerful impact.
Yeah, we have teachers that they create a start of school trailer for their new students to kind of get them excited about here's the things the kids did last year, and you're going to get to experience many of them this year. We have teachers that will do a video newsletter, maybe not on a weekly basis, but again, it's enough to get their message out and engage them, and it's not very difficult. I mean, technology today is just beautiful. We do everything on an iPad, an iMovie. Our middle school principal does everything on his phone with iMovie, so we're not talking about thousands of dollars worth of cameras and computer programs. We do it on the cheap, so to speak, with an iPad, iMovie. We got a little fancy. We painted a wall fluorescent green. That's how we get fancy in Ohio. And we used an app called Green Screen by Doink, and that allows us to change the background, give us a little bit of a special effect. That takes an additional 40 seconds to the process. So again, you can get as complex or as simple as you want, but just the fact that like Facebook Live, there's no special effects, there's no editing, and the engagement we get, the number of people that are viewing those videos is just amazing.
And another thing with the video is building upon what Ryan said, students. Trying to embrace giving up control to students. Last week, our middle school principal, she wanted to continue the video newsletter, so she got a student involved. That student pretty much did the newsletter for the most part themselves, minus the principal being in it and doing the announcements and having a role in the beginning. Another thing I did last year, I gave my iPad to students, and I would say, okay, we want a snow day video. I want you to create a song to a current tune. I want you to choreograph it. I want you to get your friends involved, and I want to have this ready for the first snow day. And those kids took and ran with that. I didn't do anything except launch it. They did the backgrounds. They did everything. I had no work in it. All I did was post it the day we had a snow day. So the more we embrace giving up some of that control to students as well, they're going to take and run with those things. And not only are they learning in the process, but we're going to benefit as a district, and we're also creating that relationship that we trust. We want to work together. This is a team here, and we're getting them involved to help promote our schools.
And one of the really cool concepts that you're starting to see is these shared accounts that you're talking about, whether it's a shared account for Twitter and you give that to a responsible student so they're able to the district Twitter page, you're going to get that student's perspective, or whether you have a school district blog, so it's not just one person's thoughts. Everyone can contribute, and it becomes kind of a living document that everyone contributes. So, I mean, just having that shared philosophy, we're all in this together, and we all have to be that storyteller in chief. So, what are some other things you guys can tell us about? Eric, I was really interested in your karaoke videos. What are some of the tools of the trade to get that done?
It was just going out and videoing it, basically. We had people. You came up with a song. People kind of did their own little choreographed thing on how they were doing a little skit while they were on the bus. What they were coming up with. I mean, we actually did Party in the USA, and we took out like our flag sunglasses and flag hat, and we took some things out on the bus, and really just acted silly, had fun, and put that out there. But also we had teachers doing all kinds of, from Wheels on the Bus to Whip It to all kinds of different songs, and you saw teachers in a whole different light. I had one person say to me, "You know what? I was at the concession stand at a football game," and he said, "I think most of the teachers I had when I went to school was old fogies, but it sure doesn't seem like the people are at your school." But I just think that's letting people see you in a different light, see who you are. And I think a lot of times, like Ryan said, that buys you when things aren't going good, or you have an issue, or you got to go to that parent because they've had an opportunity, they feel like, to get to know you, even though they might not have, just be from putting yourself out there and seeing you on video or seeing you interact with the kids, because we feature that instead of like those traditional print means.
And it's all about having fun. So
yes.
we want school to be a place where kids actually want to come and spend some time and actually enjoy that school experience. So, I mean, those are all great ideas. How do you guys feel about live streaming video? I know in our district we stream. I have a high school in my unit district. We stream football games at the varsity level, boys and girls basketball. We stream. Are you guys doing graduations or special events or board meetings, or where are you guys at on live streaming?
We did our graduation this past year. We've done a few board meetings, nothing on a regular basis. We've not been streaming sporting events, but that's more our coaches' preferences, I believe, because they don't want to give free scouting video to future opponents, which is, being a former coach, that's understandable. So we've used it in different situations. I actually, we have a state of the schools every year, and it's very interactive. It's not the traditional where the superintendent stands in front of the room and talks for half an hour. We made it. We had model classrooms going on so that parents could see what school looks like today, because it doesn't look like when we attended school. So we wanted them to see this going on. And I had a parent message me through Facebook saying, "Hey, I can't come to State of the Schools tonight. Will you use Periscope to broadcast some of it?" And I'm thinking to myself, I'm here anyways. I might as well do it. This person will get to see it. Maybe some other people will. So I used Periscope to broadcast the 5-minute presentation from our superintendent, and then walking throughout our building, going into the different classrooms. So not only could that parent see it, but other people could as well, because we put the link on our Facebook page. And just that comfort level of a parent being comfortable sending me a message through Facebook to even make that request says a lot about the relationships that we've built with our parents. And then as a school, helping and complying with that and saying, yeah, sure, we can definitely do that, just helps that image and get those stories out there.
And another really cool thing about video is the QR code is something that we've used in my district. You put a QR code, in the front of the building, right, where parents walk in, and they want to snap that, and it will take them right to a welcome video from the principal. So you can do so many amazing things with video. Eric, where are you guys at on live streaming?
We do some. In the past, we've used High School Cube for some athletic events and streamed them live, basketball games, football games. Football, we kind of do like live radio broadcast and then the video uploaded later, even though we filmed it. But we haven't done as much as probably we should have. Our building's equipped too, where we can live broadcast things throughout our building. For example, we have an upcoming Jim Tressel's coming here next month, and he's doing a speech in our auditorium. We're only going to be able to house our 8 through 12 kids, but we're going to broadcast that live from there, so anyone in the building will be able to turn their TVs on. They'll be able to watch it in real time as well. So we are looking to do a little bit more with it, but we probably haven't done as much as we should.
And as things continue to change, I mean, it's pretty cool to think of some of the things you can do with live video. I mean, whether it's having, you can even do a live Q&A with a coach who could have his or her own coach's show, or maybe you can have a high school guidance counselor where parents can actually ask questions live about financial aid or preparing to apply for scholarships. So really, the sky's the limit, and the live streaming is really cool because you have so many events that take place, and I've had people contact me that live, thousands of miles away, and congratulations on a great win last night. We live in New Jersey and had a chance to see the game. So just really the sky's the limit in what you can do. As we kind of think about wrapping up the show, we've had a great conversation tonight with Ryan McClain and Eric Lowe, 2 administrators from the state of Ohio. Can you give us a few closing thoughts and maybe a little bit of advice for that administrator that's going to listen to the show and think, wow, how do I get started, or why should I even take this dive into social media?
So for me, I guess it kind of started back right around 2000, 2001 in Ohio, where public schools, you were pretty much the only show in town. And I don't want to say we got complacent, but there was no competition, so we got complacent. And as a parent, your option was go to the public school or pay a lot of money to send your child to a private school. And then charter schools came around in Ohio, and school vouchers, and parents had more choices. So it forced school districts to step up their game. And many experts would say Ohio's charter schools are some of the worst run in the entire country. However, their enrollment's still booming. And not all charter schools are bad. But one thing that they do really well is they do a great job of marketing, and they're enticing parents with what is great about their school. So I kind of thought to myself, what would happen if we were doing great things and then we shared those stories? I don't want to say marketing because our budget was zero, but what if we used the free tools at our disposal to share the great things that were happening? Would that help us, or would we still be losing kids to the various charter schools? So I guess kind of to go full circle to something you had said earlier, if you don't tell your story, it's not going to get told, or someone else is going to tell it, and you might not want that to happen. So I would rather form the story and tell it the way that I want it to be told accurately. And it's going to show the positive things that our teachers are doing, our kids are doing, and it's going to make it well worth it.
Building upon what Ryan said, with that, it used to be like we don't have the money, like you said, like to buy a commercial or whatever we need. And it's awesome that we have these free tools now to promote and show what exactly is going on, not in our schoolhouse walls, but I think another added benefit is you can extend your schoolhouse walls. You can extend it beyond the school so that you can see things students are doing, and you can also connect to their world and still have them engaged in learning. And we've already talked about it in the show, and I know Ryan says this, and I so believe this. We want kids to want to run into our schools, not out of our schools. And it's all about whatever we can do to create that learning and the word fun are connected by the word and not or. We want school to be about learning and fun, and in our world, that is their world, they are on all of those different platforms, and the more that we can show learning, connect with them, extend what's going on in school, and also showcase to those parents that we do have really good things going on in our school, it's going to attract more students, but more importantly, it's going to make that sense of community stronger in our own school walls.
And for us, it's about engaging our community, and that's at the forefront. Anything else is a bonus. So we don't post a video hoping it's going to go viral and a million people are going to see it. We want our community to see it, and if anyone else sees it and if anyone else learns from it, that's an added bonus. We wrote the book because we wanted to help other people. We didn't do social media so that we could maybe write a book and make a lot of money, which we're not, and become rich and famous, which we won't. It was all about what are we doing to help our school, and how can we help other educators avoid some of the mishaps that we made early on.
Well, it's been a great discussion, and I can't thank you both enough for being here. Ryan McClain, Eric Lowe, two outstanding Ohio school administrators, co-authors of the book Your School Rocks, so tell people. So try to connect with these two, try to buy the book, and if you did miss the live show tonight on Teach Cal, remember you can always find the Goin Digital Show on demand on YouTube, iTunes, and Stitcher Radio. So that's a wrap for episode 22. Big thanks to our guest, and I hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope you join us next time on the Goin Digital Show. Good night, everyone.